1, 2, 3, and 4.
Coolest part of the whole project. Hey guys, welcome back to video 3 of Eric's V8 swap. Here I'm going to show you how we routed the exhaust and how we modified the headers from a 6.1 C300. We're going to be installing the wiring harness from Jeep Speed Shop onto the engine. This will include tapping into the C33 and C8 plugs that is needed for the 2007 to 2011 Jeeps. And then we're going to be installing the 8HP70 wiring harness, along with adding an extra wire for sport mode into the wiring harness. And this will include tapping into the CAN bus. The next video will include prepping and installing the Holley Sniper intake. We'll finish prepping the engine, including the power steering pump and AC compressor. And then we'll be installing the Jeep Speed Shop battery box and air box. In video 4 will also include installing the Camaro fan and wiring up the fan controller. If you're enjoying these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's jump right into some exhaust work. The modified exhaust manifold. Put a V-band right here at the end, and then welded on piping at the end of the driver's side and put a V-band right there. This is with the weld-in mounts on the top holes. And then it goes with enough clearance around the drive shaft, and then on the passenger side. And then from the back side comes behind the transfer case, and it connects into the Super 44 Flowmaster muffler. So a good amount of clearance around everything. Leave a little spot like this completely unwelded. That way once everything is fully welded up, then you just do this part last. That way for any movement, it's not super tight when you're putting it all together. And then we're going to finish out 3 inches out the back. Next we will finish up mounting our O2 sensors and finish up the exhaust. But for now, let's continue with prepping the engine. We're going to start with flushing out the heater core because you want to make sure you don't mix the OAT and the HOT type of coolant. Alright, so now we're going to remove these coolant lines. That way we can put a flare on the end using a brake tool. Different motor variations will come with different coolant hoses, so you'll have to cut each one a little bit different. Flare at the end of this line. Alright, so we got these heater core hoses on here. You just make them fit best. That way there's no kinks. Each setup will be a little bit different depending on where you got your motor from. And this is the temperature sensor that you use for the Camaro fan. If your water pump has this fitting on here, the sensor fits right in. So you don't have to tap it if it comes with that fitting there. You will need to purchase the pigtail for the sensor, which is this part number right here. And I'll also put the part number for the sensor in the Excel sheet. And then we have our 180-degree thermostat because we live in Arizona. I've found that using the 180-degree thermostat works best with my 392 in Arizona, and I have no overheating issues. You do have to change the fan settings, that way it comes on sooner. So now it's time we do all the wiring for the Jeep. You can start by laying the wiring out on the driver's side for the plugs for the ECM. And you kind of feed it around. And you can set up this plug with good length to plug it in right there. And then you can start by plugging in these little clips here on this side so you can know this is the right setup for the injectors and the coil packs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have a temperature sensor here, and then this is for your throttle body. Depending on which throttle body you have, it will come with an adapter. And then on the other side, plug these in also, so then you have your injectors and your coil packs. 1, 2, 3, 4 already lined up. Then you've got a couple more plugs here. So there's this one here, There's one in the front. That's your intake temperature sensor, alternator plug, and then this one is your oil pressure on this side over here. And then we have more going to the back. On this side, this type of plug is for your knock sensor, and this one will be for your crankshaft position sensor. And here's the part number, and you only need this if you have a 2013 or newer engine. And I like to install everything with the intake manifold removed. This is the plug for the 545 transmission, which we are not going to be using. This is one of the 545 speed sensors. Won't be using that one. And then there's an additional 545 speed sensor. We won't use that one. So there's two that are the same. We won't be using them. And this big plug we don't use. This little plug is the transfer case 4-wheel drive plug, and that's downline of the 545 plug. With the 4-wheel drive plug, you'll have the O2 sensor, and this is the driver side rear O2 sensor. And this one is another plug for the 545 that does not get used. It looks the same as the O2 sensors, and we don't use it. Where we don't use this plug, where this branches down, this will be the rear O2 sensor for the passenger side. And there's a little plug back here that is for this little isolator. You'll only use one, and you'll have two different plugs here. One's for the short runner, and then the other one is for the map sensor. When switching to the Holley Sniper, you need to take off the map sensor off the top here, and that will go on the back of the new intake. This is the actual short runner valve. That does not come off, only the map sensor comes off. And right here is where you plug in your brake booster hose. And then you got the MDS plug. Down on the driver side, you got the starter plug, and then there'll be a ground wire. You can bolt this to the engine mount, and then you'll have the knock sensor up there. And on the passenger side is the crankshaft position sensor, and if you have a 13 and newer, you do need to switch this out. On the 7 to 11 Wranglers, you need to attach these wires to the factory wiring harness. One is labeled C8, the other is labeled C33. So you can put 4 prongs into each of these 4 corners, and that'll allow you to take off this cap. So we actually used 4 little screwdrivers. You could do like 2 on this side, and you can start to pry a little bit here, and then having an extra person really is almost necessary. And this piece will work its way out. So on this plug, you can see there's numbers 10, 19, 28, 38. First one will be C8. So you count down 10, 9, 8. Take this little piece and break a little plastic piece off on the inside. So we just shove that through and it breaks it off. And then the other one is going to be C33. Count down from the 38 all the way to 33, which will be the first open one to the left of the 5 wires, right next to the purple with the orange tracer. Shove it into the hole, and it'll push through that weather seal. Line it up, and it'll go in. Yep, it is in.
Okay, that one's
Clicked.
There it is.
After you already pull knock those little black plugs off, put this piece back on, and then shove it all through there. Don't try to shove it through 2 pieces. Now we are.
He broke a clip. He lied.
I'll record over it.
Edit it out.
And now we are installing the ECU. Eric's doing a great job.
I'm fumbling. I got big old paws and little tiny space. So what I did was, stock ECU has one ground that goes from firewall. It's on this post over here. And then the Jeep Speed Shop harness also comes with another ground that I also added to this post over here nearest the engine.
Yep, because the 07 to 11s comes with 2 grounds. One ground will go, I think, up under the Jeep, and the other one is by the ECU. 12 to 18 wiring harnesses only have 1 ground that gets plugged in towards the back of the motor.
Distance here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll lock them all into place. It's done, it's over.
Coolest part of the whole project.
All right.
So now let's move on to transmission wiring. So we're going to be wiring up the 8-speed controller next. This is the orientation of this bracket. And you have these spacers that go on first, and the shifter will go on them just like this. And the PCS controller will fit right here. We are going to be working on the wiring, but first we're going to be adding an additional wire. That way Eric can hook up sport mode. The new Jeep Speed Shop wiring harness does not come with extra wires to hook up sport mode. So we're going to be adding one. So to add it, you need to take off this cover here, and then you need to remove this little blue piece here. And we're going to be adding this extra wire into spot number 3. So it's labeled 1 right here. So it's 1, 2, 3. And you take out this little dust cover, and then you shove in the wire from the back side. You have to remember 1, 2, 3. And it'll go until it's locked. You can use this for your sport mode. And you put your little blue piece right back on. Snaps on. Then you can extend this wire out to use for the sport mode switch.
And here is a link to my video installing sport mode.
So the first thing we're going to do when doing the transmission wiring is shove this 7-plug harness through the firewall here. But you need to take off this plug first. So you can put some little clips here and it will push in. That way this can fit through the tub. And then when you're actually putting this back on, you need to make sure it puts all the way in to where this is inside this plug, or else you're going to have issues with the transmission. And you can shove this wiring through this hole. So once you're down here, you need to make sure you put this on all the way. It goes all the way in, and then it snaps into place. It's recessed in here. The other really important step is plugging in the transmission. You need to make sure it's seated all the way in there. So once this plug, this little knob here, is all the way to the left or all the way facing up, then the plug will start to go in. And then you can, while pushing in, spin it to the right, and it will pull itself in. And it'll go to the locked position, and it is all the way. You can see the plug is recessed in the actual clip. So we've got our wires pretty much organized. This one is going down to the transmission. The other one is the OBD connector. It's right there. And then other wires, we've got this 4-plug, the option connector if you're going to do paddle shifters or if you're going to do the gear indicator. These wires are going to get tucked under and end up under the dash, out of the way, over there. And the wires that are going to stay under the center console, it's going to be your canvas connection. And it's going to be the plug for the actual shifter. And then I will show you what I'm tapping this into over there. Keep everything under the Jeep. So let's go ahead and get all these organized.
Make sure you change out the fuses to make sure they're both 10 amp fuses. One was a 3 and the other one was a 10. If these fuses pop, you will not be able to start your Jeep.
So here is this key lockout switch that we do not need anymore.
It goes right here to the ignition. In order to remove it, there's a tab right here on the top. If you pull it, it won't come out. So you have to have the key turned on, slides right out.
And you don't need that anymore with the 8HP70 shifter.
Okay, and we're gonna mount the module right here. The center hole aligns it, and then we'll do 2 self-tapping screws. So we got most of the wire all tucked in here nicely. This is the wire for the shifter. So you can plug in the shifter. And then this canvas wire will stay under here. We'll tap it into here. And then the USB plug will be able to be reached up on this side. There's the canvas, and then there'll be the USB under there. So now we're gonna focus on tapping into the canvas system. There's a canvas high and canvas low. A lot of different colors in here. The way you test it out is take a little knife, clean it off, touch the wires, turn the key. If it says hot oil, then it is not wired correctly. So we're gonna first check these wires and see if that works. This is where you'll tap into the canvas for the 7 to 11s. This wire color that we're doing is a white wire, or more cream, but white with a black tracer and a white with a blue tracer.
The Jeep white with black tracer will attach to the transmission white with red tracer, and the Jeep white with blue tracer will attach to the transmission white with black tracer. This is what worked for Eric's Jeep, and it can be different colors for different Jeeps. So you have to test it out and see if the hot oil warning goes away. If you have the NAG 1, these are going to be where you tap into the wire. I'll put these in the video description. I'll also put these in the video description here for the 7 to 11. The other 3 wires that we need to tap into is going to be switched 12 volt, which is the yellow. The red wire will be the battery, and then the ground. I'll put all the wires inside here. I'm actually going to tap into the ignition switch. We've got the pink with the white tracer. That's going to be your keyed power. And then the blue with the pink tracer, that's going to be your battery power. Figured if we are tapping into the canvas system, what harm could it be tapping into the power cables? So we're going to be tapping into these wires right here. It is recommended to tap into the TIPM Jeep Speed Shop, but we are keep everything inside here. And same with, you got the NAG 1, you'll be able to do everything with the actual old TCM wiring. There'll be all the power wires here. So let's solder these on. Don't cut these wires, just remove the shielding with a razor blade, and then you can use solder on them. And to test that you're tapping into the correct canvas wires, you can plug everything in, turn the key forward, and if it is incorrect, you'll have boxes around the transmission position, and then it'll also say hot oil on the dash. So if it does say hot oil on the dash, you can try a different variation of canvas wires. And the canvas high and low will always be wrapped together. Here are the wires soldered on. I would recommend laying the wires less perpendicular, that way they're easier to wrap up. Now we can solder on these wires up here. Again, pink is the keyed. Blue with the pink is the battery power. Got these all soldered in, so then when we turn the key forward, transmission position, it'll show the box only under park, and it won't say hot oil anymore. So now you can clean up the rest of your transmission wiring. Most everything is plugged in. Coil packs are plugged in, and then we'll do the injectors once we put the intake manifold on. Still need to tap the Hollow Sniper. Here's the map sensor. We won't be using the short runner valve electronic. Won't be using this or the plug that goes into that. Stay tuned for video 4 where we'll finish up wiring, finish the intake, and get ready to start this Jeep. And again, if you're enjoying these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe.